Hi, folks. Welcome to the UK Ice Hockey Stick Together Tribe. I am Nick Rothwell, and joining me today is Nicky Watt, famous hockey player, almost a more famous podcaster today with 4,000 and counting. Nicky, thanks for joining me today, brother. How are you doing?
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure. How are you, mate? I'm rocking and rolling, ready to go. This has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a very long time, and yeah, no, the day's finally here. Nice to be on this side of it.
Yeah, I know. I'm enjoying. I'm going to enjoy this because I listen to your podcast all the time, and I'm going to enjoy putting some questions to you. We do have a format, Nicky. I don't know if you've listened to any of them before, but we do have a format. We break it over 3 20-minute periods. We're going to talk in the first 20 about how you fell in love with the game and your early careers around the rinks, and then the second period is going to be about the meat and potatoes of your professional hockey. And then the third period, which is where all the magic happens, is life after hockey. Even if hockey might not all be but finished in your life, who knows if there's a comeback for you in your story?
Absolutely not.
But we're gonna get at it right away and drop the puck for the first period. I'm gonna start the clock here. Nicky, from Irvine up in Scotland, making it down south. I know you've got a colored career in the hockey world, but first tell me, man, how did you fall in love with the game? How did you first get introduced to it?
Well, so those that are older heads that are tuning in, which actually from looking at the Facebook group, there's a few old boys that are kicking around on there, so they'll probably remember my dad playing for Air Bruins back in the Rocky Saginaw, Tommy Serrell, Danny Shea, Frankie Morris kind of era. Keith Gretzky made an appearance. Like they had proper imports then. And one of my favorite things to do, obviously, as a kid, was go watch my dad play. I keep mucking around my neck. There we go. Go watching my dad play, holding a right-handed coho, left-handed in nappies, shooting pucks with the stick as a lefty. My dad's like, fucking come on, like, I've got 3,000 right-hand sticks and you pick it up straight away, go to the lefty. It's like, help me out here. But yeah, from there, like, I didn't really start playing any sort of organized hockey until we moved to England. And I was around six and a half. We moved down to England in 92. My dad's an MOD policeman, so he worked for the AWE in Aldermaston, and he went back and started playing a bit of ED1 hockey with the Basingstoke Bulldogs. Then that's when guys were like Steve Murray were in that league playing for Blackburn, scoring fucking 400 points in 10 games or whatever it was. Like it wasn't like ED1 is now. There was no, like, Luke Chabot was playing in it.
Yeah.
He had 157 goals or something.
Dude, that was my era.
Yeah.
I actually did okay on the stats chart.
Yeah, pad your stats, jumpers for goalposts, let's go. But yeah, so my dad played, and when I was 6.5, almost 7, I started in the Basingstoke Hockey Basics program and kind of went through that very quickly. And from there, by the time I was 8, I think I would probably started playing under 14s.
Yeah.
Like, so
would I have played against your dad at all then? Like, I'm talking, like, my first year would have been 91 for the Isle of Wight. So
yeah, like I said, he was playing for the Bulldogs, not for the not for the Beavers back then. So
That
I
was,
think the Beavers would have probably been in the Premier, and then the Bulldogs would have been in ED1. So if you were in ED1, yeah,
yeah. That would have
there's
been the
a
Isle of Wight,
good
but I
plus.
don't remember. I remember playing the Bulldogs. I
I
remember.
remember my dad getting kicked out, and um, yeah, my dad getting kicked out and walking down the alleyway and two-handing the fire escape sign, and it's, you know, yeah, but
If you had
like,
those coho silver fibers, it would have done a pretty destructive job
yeah,
on these things.
that's why Bainstoke Rink's falling down now.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, at
just
that point,
abuse the structure.
when I first came over here, I mean, Basingstoke Ice Rink was
Beautiful.
like it was known as like the place. I mean, I remember all the figure skating championships were being held there. It was the Olympic size rink, and it was beautiful. It was kind of the center.
Bill Glennie, which was previous before like the Southwest, before the inter squad championships and before the showcase, it was Bill Glennie.
Mm.
And the best on best kids come from all over England, and they played. That was at Basingstoke because the rink was fantastic then.
You had a brother that you grew up with too, right? And
Yeah,
like, so what were the dynamics, the two of you fighting over hockey sticks and pucks, getting
fighting
shins,
over everything.
fighting over like, because this is what, like, I got three boys, and when they were started to get, playing little knee hockey in the house with rolled up socks. I mean, it gets a little rough, dude. I can't imagine what it was like in your household.
Well, anybody that's seen me and my brother play kind of knows exactly what it was like. It was like that. Like, I've got photos on my old hard drive, and I've spoke about this on my podcast. Me and Ryan always liked the physical side of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember we used to run down the hallway and try and hip check each other over the back of the sofa. Like, I remember having punch bags tied up upstairs with hockey jerseys around, laced tight, practicing, throwing the knucks. And I've got, yeah, like I was saying, I've got photos of, well, when I was under, so I started playing for the Bison, skating with the Bison at 13,
Yeah.
played in the Crossover Cup and the Best of British, BNL when I was 14, 15, played in the Elite League when I was 16. So I would go out and coach the under 19s at that point. So I'd be 16, but I'd be coaching the Basingstoke 19s, running practices.
Mm.
And at the end of every practice, obviously Ryan used to play up 2, 3 age groups. We would fucking shit kick each other.
Mm.
Like 5 minutes at the end of every practice, because it was practice. Like, you're practicing, and we both knew the way we played. When we go into senior hockey, you're going to have to be able to do this.
It was like hockey in the UK in the early 90s, which is, I imagine, when you're in mid 90s when you're getting exposed to
Yeah.
it. Like, you used the word earlier on, proper imports. I'd like to know what you meant by that. But also, the style
Okay.
of the game was it was, a lot of Canadians were coming over. The culture of the game was being more led by Canadian culture than European culture. So, when did you, what was the physicality of the game at such a young age? What do you remember about that? What do you remember about, if I'm going to play hockey, I want to be physical? Was it the fact that you and Ryan just were like two knuckleheads that like to knock the shit out of each other? Or was
Yeah.
there something, was there something in the game that you saw, but also knowing that maybe as British players, there was going to be a role for you to play a more physical game?
I'll go to your first question, then I'll come back to that one. Proper imports. What's a proper import? Chris Kellen's a proper import. Rocket Ron Shuja is a proper import. Rick Ferrer. Like, my dad said back then, you brought 3 imports in. If you were fucking shit, you were going home. Like, oh, you can't fight. You just got shit kicked by their import. You're going home. Like, there was it was a bit more ruthless. Your imports had to be able to play 30, 40 minutes a night. They had to be the real game changers. You could blatantly tell the difference between a North American guy and a British player, unless his name was Tony Hand. Like, whereas now some of these imports come in, you couldn't pick them out over if they're better than a Brit or not. You would never know they're an import. The only thing that you could tell is they got this. If you're coming from U Sports, you're gonna work your fucking bag off. Like, you're gonna work hard. But then name me a British player that doesn't work his bag off.
Mm.
There isn't one, because to be in that league, to be in the elite league now, you have to be able to literally work your absolute nuts off. And I find some of the imports now are not of the caliber. I mean, it's got better, but going back to like, kind of when you played and when my dad played, and Tim Salmon, Kevin Conway, these guys had to. They were money guys like Luke Shabbat, Steve Charlton. Like I'm missing a million guys. Mike Rowe. Like there's just guys that come over and they stayed as well.
That was,
That was the
yeah.
difference.
They stayed, they got married, they had kids, they paid taxes. They
Yeah,
became part of British hockey culture. And I think that's why
100%.
there still is a legacy from that 90s hockey, which, that's where when I played, and I remember it was really special. I remember going up to watch the Beavers play with Dan Sweeney when we were playing on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And it was like going to the Basingstoke Arena was special. We hitchhiked up there from the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, I love that.
Bunked on trains and stuff like that, and it was so much fun. I got a story to tell you about Rick Farah and Kevin Conway and eating hot dogs in the intermission in a second. But
Okay, I like that. Love that.
yeah, well, okay, I'll just tell you now. There was a huge queue for the hot dogs in Basingstoke. Like it was like there was a hot dog stand down in the far end, and there was just this huge queue. And I walked to the front of it and I said, I need a couple of hot dogs for Rick and Kevin. They need some hot dogs. They're really hungry. And they just handed me and Dan Sweeney a bunch of hot dogs, and we just whipped them down.
Yeah, chow them down.
Yeah.
The boys used to get looked after in Basingstoke. Can I go to the second part of your question quick?
Yeah.
Right. So obviously we touched on that there, and then like the physicality side of the game. I was always drawn to it, and Eric Lindros, to less of like a goon type, but like Yaga, how physical he was, how big and strong he was. And back then, like the NHL was tough as shit. So like a lot of our hockey exposure as juniors was watching NHL, getting tapes, getting whatever it was back then. And there was a lot of fighting, and I was drawn to it, massively drawn to it, massively drawn to the physical side of the game. Defensemen like Scott Stevens, forwards like Lindros, like I said, big power forwards that could impose themselves, even if they're not scoring a goal, they're going to be one of the most imposing players on the ice. You're going to be checking your shoulder when they're Steve Carpenter's a prime example of the guy that played in the UK. Fuck, you better know when Steve's on the ice, because the next time you wake up, you might be in Basingstoke Hospital going, what the fuck happened there? Because you cut to the middle with your head up. Like, there's so many different elements to the game that I liked about the physicality. I like the fact that you could change momentum of a game. I like the fact you can get the boys going, that you can get the crowd into the game. You can show that you can lead by example.
Like at what age did you start to see, you're watching the Beavers play? When are you starting to see this and feel energy shift because of a fight, because of a big
straight away?
Yeah. Could you even see over the boards?
Yeah, man. Like we used to run riot at that rink, absolutely run riot. And then we would go, especially once we got a little bit better, by the time we were like 7, 8, 9, 10, we go on the late skate after it and just fucking rinse all the Joe Public, because we could all wheel around like 100 miles an hour, forwards, back. Because like we were doing, so when
What about
Grant Slater. Yeah. So Grant Slater was in Basingstoke when I was a kid, and we used to do Grant's power skating, which was legit. And Basingstoke was always pretty good at that when I was younger. There was always someone getting involved, someone from the Beavers coming out on the ice. Like my dad coached me a vast majority of my career, and I'm not just saying this; he's a fucking legit coach. So I got majorly lucky in that sense. Sometimes you get parent coaches, and it's an absolute nightmare. But when parent coaches are ex-players and know how to play the game and know how the game should be played, it made life easier for me. But it was still nice to have a Kevin Conway come on the ice when you're 8 years old. And you talk about it being like they've left a legacy. Like we've had Ben O'Connor, we got Shudra boys, we've got Jackson and Brandon Whistle, Scott Conway. There's quite a lot of guys from around that 90s hockey in the UK whose sons have gone on to be GB stalwarts. They're nearly, this is how old we're getting, folks. Benny's announcing retirement from pro hockey.
Feel old.
Like, all the boys are starting to retire. We're talking about their dads and the lads now. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction to everything. Like,
What was it?
guys like Darren Hurley coming into Basingstoke. Chris Crombie was one of
Yeah.
the early ones I remember. The very first one that like my favorite tough guy Basingstoke ever had was Doug Sinclair.
Hmm.
I loved him, loved him. Um,
Was that with Peter
I,
when Peter Woods was there? That was a
I
Woodsy
was
guy.
just about to bring him up. I remember my dad telling me a story one night when he come home, and I think it was
So
Hurls. He
happy.
was talking.
Yeah.
I think it was Hurls. He'd fought quite a bit in his first year, and he got in his second year, and he wasn't fighting anyone. And Peter like, because my dad and Pete used to talk. So obviously, head coach in the juniors. Pete was the head coach of the seniors, and they would talk. And my mum used to look after Brock and Austin and like look after their kids. So like there was quite a relationship there. And I remember him telling the story, like saying to Hurls, "Hey, I didn't bring you in here to fucking score, buddy. Like you better get back out there and do the job that I'm paying you to do." And boy, did Darren Hurley do that for Basingstoke. Like he
Tough
was
guy.
good. And I got to play with Hurls actually. And I was on the ice when the infamous line brawl in Belfast where he absolutely buckled Jason Bowen twice in the space of 2 minutes. It was like it was mad, and then Rushy jumped in, and there was a line brawl. I was only 16, 17. Like I was loving my life because I was on the ice for a start, and I got to have a line brawl, so it was good for me.
Your first period, okay, it goes is like from here to like coho silver fiber up in air to like rocket ship action into hockey. A lot of guys that have had on, they remember the junior stuff and some of the away
Yeah.
trips, and they talk about running around the rink. And I know you mentioned that a little bit, but it seems like your first period, man, your love of the game and your action into quite high level hockey came really, really fast. Do you remember though, Nicky, just the play? Was there a time where it just play, or was it always competitive? Was it always about aggression? Was it just a time where you would like just go out with a tennis ball with your brother and maybe some of the guys around the car park and just like have fun and just
Oh
play?
yeah, absolutely.
What was that like then for you?
Yeah, like that was. It was kind of a combination of both of what you're saying. We'd go out and just play, but it was competitive, man.
Mm.
Like I didn't know they'd fucking lose. And Ryan's a competitive bastard as well. And the thing is, the kids from the street, like we lived in the same street growing up. My mum and dad still live in the same house. So we knew the neighbor kids. And by the end of, couple of years of everyone living there, everyone had sticks, everyone had pucks, like the neighbor kids that play football or ride bikes or do whatever. They come out, they get involved in the street hockey. Um, yeah, loved all that. Break a few
Street
car
hockey like in
windows.
Baseball. Was it game on, game off stuff for cars
Oh,
and
absolutely, absolutely Wayne's World vibes. And because that was a very popular movie and we were kids, it used to be literally game off, game on, like, and it was. Um, but yeah, like hockey used to be fun. We used to go to hockey camps and go to hockey camps like in the UK, which were, always fun. You get a mix with other kids from other teams. That was good. And like the big thing that I loved is that as a player, as a young guy, I loved the conference tournament. Like I was G'd up for that. Like always G'd up. And then I went on and coached and won it a bunch of times coaching it, won it as a player, a bunch of times, led the tournament scoring. My final year, me and Adam Walker, what a beauty he is. And we both didn't make the All-Star team, not that I'm still bitter. They picked Ollie Bronneman. They picked Ollie Bronneman, who had fucking Ollie's my boy. I love him, but he had one fucking point, and he made the All Star team. But
when
like,
was the
yeah, so
first
that was fun for me.
when was the first time you remember putting on a jersey? Like how old were you? What was the jersey? What was it like in the changing room, like leaning over and tying up your skates, or did your dad come in and help you tie up your skates? What was that like?
Um,
Really early memory.
Basingstoke, Basingstoke Muskrats, and it was number 5, and it haunts me to this day, and that's why I would never wear number 5 ever again.
Why?
Um, oh, because I'd be running on the ice, man, just fucking terrible. Like I'm talking like 6 years old, been skating for no time. Just out there, my mom. I'm sure my mom will help you out. She'll put a video out. She'll send you it up, but like you can put it out. I don't mind. I'll take the embarrassment. But in fact, actually, it's probably more impressive if you was to look back how bad I was when I very first started. To
Mm.
say 2 years later, playing up 2 age groups already, and not just like playing up. By the time I was 10, 11, you'd be leading the under 14s and scoring. By the time I was 13, you'd be leading like the under 16s, under 19s. Like me, Joe Greener were 13 and 14 respectively. And we'd be first line under 19s. Like, so our development, I know you said like it kind of went fast. Our development went fast. Like we got better quick and we got bigger, we got stronger. Like
Just
and we would love it. Like everything was hockey. Everything was dialed to hockey. You finished school, you came home, it was hockey until you went to the rink. The next night you might not have no practice. Like for me, because I trained across a lot of teams, I was always playing up. I was at the rink a lot. But on the days where you weren't, yeah, it was just hockey mad. You'd be outside, shoot 300-400 pucks, whatever it may be.
there's a thing though, like that I've noticed is a couple of British lads, right? Is the love of the game that got them really quick, even though there wasn't a lot of exposure to it. You know, like a guy like Steve Slater down on the Isle of Wight, like he had barely no ice time, and he went pooh, and he made it quite quick. But he had this love and this grit for the game that was inside of him. And I'm wondering, like, when did you know that there was this flame inside of you? You know that, like, were you sleeping with a hockey stick in your bed? Like, how
Yeah,
much, like you were,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Did you have a name for your hockey stick?
No, but I
Yeah.
went slap shot time, call him
Yeah.
a little tomahawk.
Yeah.
Um, but like I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I can answer it with a theory.
Yeah.
Brody's fucking obsessed, man.
Yeah.
Like non-stop Brody's to me, daddy hockey,
Brody's your little
hockey
kid.
golf,
Your
hockey
little,
golf, hockey
your
golf.
little son.
Like
Yeah.
he's been like that since because I don't push it with him. If he wants to play, we can play. Like if you want to throw some hands, do some boxing, you want to do some golf. He's only 2.5, but you're like kids into like all sports. But at the moment, every single day is daddy hockey. Daddy hockey, daddy hockey. Like he woke up this morning. I could hear him getting up down the corridor, and it's like daddy hockey. I'm like, dude, it's like 6:30.
Mm.
So if I was anything like that, which the photos of me running around in a nappy with a coho back to front, yeah, probably at a very early age. And same thing for Ryan. I remember like my brother getting what would he have been? Maybe 4, maybe 5. But like getting gloves, new gloves, and like wearing them to bed. Like that sort of sticks getting wrapped up for Christmas. Like, oh, I wonder what the fuck this could be. And then, like a bunch of like everything was hockey related. Like
I think
Christmas was hockey, birthday hockey.
that's what I like. You know, as a dad of a guy who, my 8-year-old plays here in Zleen, and hockey's very serious here. And because like I remember my minor hockey career in Canada really well, and I remember when I fell in love with the game. I can remember when I was like, I love the game, and it wasn't right when I started to play. It took me a little time to warm up to it. And this is what maybe like would be a good from a message from you too, with like for parents. Like sometimes it's in a kid right away. Sometimes it needs to be nurtured. But did your parents ever push you?
No,
No. Yeah.
no. The only thing they would push us with is like as we got older, don't be a lazy prick
Mhm.
and be a team. And my dad was very big on like be a team guy. So it's
Where
no wonder like the way I ended up playing my career was to try and be a team guy like the best you could. And when you play the role that I did and you do the part of the game that I did, you are a team guy, like more than most.
we'll get into that, man. We'll get into that. Just as we wrap up this first period, people got an introduction to how you fell in love with the game. When did you know you wanted to make it a career?
Great way.
Yeah. And there was a pathway for you to at least play semi-pro.
Um yeah. I could have, do you know what? I could have stayed and gone into the Elite League more so than I did. But yeah, I always knew that I wanted it to be a career, but I didn't really, what's the best way of saying it? When I came back from Florida, I was like, right, I made a mistake. I should have went back to America again the following year. And you're 16, you're
Florida
getting
was just
told
the
you're gonna,
IMG Academy, right?
yeah, IMG, yeah. Played under John Parrish Jr., like the best coach I've ever played for, like one of the best black coaches in history, trailblazer, um, What he did for the black hockey community is insane. If you don't know him, please go research John Parrish Jr. Like, have a read. First black coach to win a trophy in professional sports. He won with Atlanta back in like 93, 94. I believe it was the IHL back then. Um, you know, like a lot of people stood on his shoulders, and getting to play for him was exceptional. How he taught me, the things he taught me, how much better he made me in 7 months was insane. Like insane. I thought I was good before I went, but I didn't really realize how much better he made me. Especially now looking back, like I owe a lot to that man. Like I owe everything to him. Um, he taught me how to be a good person as well. Right, because I was a fucking lunatic when I was 15. Um, he always gave me enough rope to hang myself. Like, he'd be like, I'm going to let you make mistakes, but I'm going to teach you. And he taught me. And he would take me out for dinner sometimes, because obviously being Brit, being over there, sometimes he'd take me for lunch. He would like take me he's like, do you like sushi? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, we're going for sushi. I'm like, you fucking dick. But he would just try and make me uncomfortable. At the end of every practice, he was like, your crossovers are shit going one way. He'd have me stay out and skate the circle 100 times. Like, he would make me shoot 200 pucks at the start of practice. He'd make me take. And just this is what I liked about John. When you're coaching, you're out there on the ice, you're in practice, and the coach is like, right, pucks on all four blues. Kids are fucking wiring pucks off the glass and they're hard rimming them. He'd be like, wherever the pucks were on the last station. So let's say they're in the corner and they need to go to the blue. He said, I want you to source every puck. Hit the blue line. He was like, don't waste time. You're here to learn. You're here to practice. He said, this is practice. He said, if you do that, and then next time in the game, you need to throw that source pass across the middle, or you need to find a seam, or you need to put that weight of pass, you've done it 300 times this week. It's like everything was dialed in. Like he was so smart on everything he did. He's like a master's in philosophy and psychology and all that other stuff as well. So I'm 16, he does up a kipper, but just looking back now, what he taught me, he made me love the game more, for sure. Like his passion for the game would come through. Um, he was a competitive bastard as well. He didn't like to lose. He really didn't like to lose, and I mean, I like that. I was teammates with Barry McKenzie when I was in Florida, so me and Barry were lineys, a couple of British boys just over there, and yeah, like how can you not fall in love? But I came back, and you get sold the dream that you're going to go in the elite league, you're going to do this, and the ice time was just shit. And he was bringing guys in, and no disrespect to Jesse Hamill or fucking Norm or anything like that, but even at 17, I felt I could do just as good a job as any of them boys. And they were bringing these guys in on two ways. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Even like the imports were like, Mo, you got to play him. You got to play him. Like put him on the ice, and that kind of. God, so I was just going to say because it does kind of pay into like being a career. That's when I was like, I'm not doing another year of this. I could have went to Coventry, I could have went somewhere else, but I was like, Warren Ross was my England junior coach. He was in Slough. He's like, why don't you come and give Slough a try and see what you like it? And Terry Miles was there, Bixie, 40, Greener. When I went, and it was the biggest and best kind of mistake ever, because as soon as you get in a locker room with those boys, it's kind of hard to go back up to the elite league. The fun times began and the becoming a man began.
Let's talk about the second period. We've recapped how you fell in love with the game, and there's some things I'm going to highlight later on, including that relationship with John Parrish Jr. But it's safe to say you fell in love with the game at an early stage in your life, and there was something inside of you, a little fat fire that got flamed, through your early teens and stuff that eventually carved out a career for you, which we're going to get into in the second period. But we'll just end that now. In the first period now. And Nicky, right now, what I like to talk to guys about is their intermission routines. What was your routine in between intermissions?
Take all of my upper body off, take my shorts off, throw a snooze in or a chew. Yeah, drink some Lucozade, drink some Powerade, some sort of sports drink. Yeah, like it kind of depends, because the older you get, the more involved you are. You're on the first PP unit. you might be out, right, boys. We're all, the five guys that are on PP1 are over there doing this. But you know, like as a rule, yeah, I just like to gear down because I get my whole kit on in like 90 seconds, including my skates. I have zip on kit, zip on, zip off kit. So for me, coming in and like gearing all down and sitting and just in like basically your leg pads, your jock and your skates. That's all you got left on. I just like to be comfy, like to be loose. You know, depending on the game, maybe icing some knuckles or whatever. Getting a massage if you need to get a massage, but nothing crazy. What did you do?
Not a lot of superstitions.
Oh, fucking thousands, mate.
Okay, what
Maniac,
do those?
maniac. Just like oh, I couldn't even begin. I couldn't even begin, Nick. It's a joke.
Give me your top five superstitions. Go.
So, where to begin? I always like, if you notice throughout my career, a lot of teams you'll notice I warmed the goalies up.
Mhm.
So I would like to be the first on the ice after the goalies. Skate, touch the crease, touch the post. Back of the crossbar, post, crease. Second hot lap, straight into a stretch on the far side. Like routine was on point. Like you could fucking time it to a second over the 500 plus games that I played, and it would be like a video player just on top of each other, on top of each other. Um, that would go on. I'd like to. The longer I got into the career, and the more kind of I would get less shit for not getting off the warm up early. Always like to be. Always like to be off the ice with 7 minutes to go in warm up after the last breakout drill. I'd
Mhm.
get off and then gear down, like you say, throw a snooze in, get on the treatment table, and then I'd like to be the first guy out of the locker room, waiting for everybody, G them up when they come out. Always like to be the first guy after the goalies to go on when you're being like when you're getting ready to go there. And then for national anthem, always stood one stick length from the blue line, one stick length from the wall on the left hand side. So you're a little bit behind everybody else. Um, I would do a toe tapping routine on the ice during the national anthem. I haven't done it in 13 years. I guarantee if I put my skates right on and went out and never thought about it, I could just do it right now. Right. Um, as the national anthem was coming down, as it's into that last 4 or 5 seconds, I'm already backing up, hot wheel around, and then I want to be that last guy in the huddle.
Mm.
I want to be in and then back out, last guy in the huddle, so that I can back out and be the first guy to give the boys the fist pumps. Like, mate, my whole routine was fucking psychotic.
Yeah.
When you think about it now, but like, imagine having all that shit to think about. Like, I don't know
The
guys that
thing
couldn't
you
care.
don't think about it after it's routine, right?
Oh no, yeah, you don't think about it at all. But it's funny because people have asked me, and I've never really explained it before. But yeah, just a mental midget, mate. Like, absolutely up in my own head for sure.
Man, I can tell you burned calories, dude. I can tell you burned calories.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so
Just try to get to the start of the game, right?
yeah, yeah. I want to start our second period. Your first professional game. I know you had a career that started really, really quick. You were playing up really, really fast. I know you're an advocate for that too.
Yeah,
Kids playing what
massively.
they're meant to be playing. So when was it for you where you get called up to the team where you wanted to be your senior squad?
I'm probably going to go with the best of British, you know.
Mm,
I could have gone in the Elite League and like the first professional game there. I don't think that meant as much to me as the best of British. And because we're the best of British as well, like Joe Greener came up with me. It was away in Slough, and that was when Slough had who did they have? You know, like Gary Stefan, um, Uncle Wazza, and a few boys like that. I believe Nicky Cross was there, Dave Hurst, and I remember like for Basingstoke, like it was Derek Higdon, Neil Lydiard, um, maybe Joe Watkins that year. I can't remember. But I remember Lindsay coming around the back of the net and Slough in the old Slough barn. And Lindsay used to use this fucking curve like that. It was disgusting. And I remember him coming back and Dave Hurst was in. Hursty was never the starter for Slough, you know. I think it was probably Rick Galacci at that point or something like that. But I remember Lindsay comes round and he just winds up from the top of the circles in his own end and just goes top catcher on Hursty. And I was like, shit. Like, and like just that. And then because I'd been in and around the training and been in and around the team for probably a year up until that point. So it was nice to actually get into a game and play against men
Mm.
and
How old were you?
love it.
How old were you?
14, 15 maybe max.
Wow.
Probably 14.
And who was your coach?
Ooh, God. Was it Ellie?
Mike Ellis?
Micah? Maybe. Uh, oh God, you put me on the spot now.
Oh dear.
I played for a few guys when I was younger. Yeah, I reckon it might have been Ellie then.
Yeah.
I would have to go back on on Elite Prospects and have a look. But yeah, he was even
But
if it
what are you
wasn't
doing as a
Ellie.
14-year-old that's giving them the confidence to put you in these competitive games? What have you done yourself personally to get there?
Work my fucking ass off.
Mm.
Dummy in the under 19 league, like not only like the under 16 league, dummy in the under 19 league. Um, like fighting in the under 19 league at that age, like fighting 18-year-olds, didn't give a shit. Like, and back then in juniors, it was helmets and gloves off. Like, it was like legit. If you think you're tough, let's see what you got, kind of. And they brought in like 2+2 for fighting under 19s. It's like testosterone filled bunch of teenagers. It was some of them games were mental. Like and yeah, like just I don't know. Like I said, I'd go home. I was shooting two,
Mm.
3, 400 pucks every day. Like I shot the puck better than guys way older than me. I had a heavy shot. Um, and then yeah, like I said, I've been working my ass off in like the bison training for probably a year up until that point. As a 13, coming up 14-year-old. So yeah,
When
you
did you know
just
that you wanted to be the style of player that you are, and were? Like I know, like if you were to say what I would be a utility winger, like a coast to coast bang, get off the ice guy. I was never going to be a superstar slick guy. I had a nice heavy shot. I could skate, but I kept all the fun off the ice. On the ice, I just kept my job really, really simple. Um, and that's just where I fit in. So when did you know you wanted to be a guy who's going to play physical, agitate, could score some goals, but really be that in your face hockey player, that guy that was going to wind teams up?
I think for me, it came part and parcel. Like I was always the best player or one of the best players in any league that I was playing in as a junior. I was always right up at the top of the scoring charts. Like I was always dominating games. Um, but I would get just as much of a buzz out of hitting you with your head down, cutting through center ice than I would from scoring a goal. Like it's also the kind of side of the game. When you are the better player and you are playing up against a bunch of kids, you're getting hacked, you're getting slashed, you're getting chopped. It's also about like standing up for yourself, giving you a bit of space. You know, if they chop you in your arm and they're trying to man mark, remember the days of like man marking and shit. Like some little agitating prick would skate around with you for 60 minutes. So yeah, I had that a lot, and to then have to deal with that, you have to be willing to battle. You have to be willing to go through it. And I like both sides of the game right from the early age. Like I think bearing in mind I had like next to zero ice time in the Elite League. Still had 3 fights that year
Mm.
as a 16-year-old, like fighting men. I wanted to prove that I wanted to be there. And I just I always respected the guys that did it. And you've played with enough. They're the best guys. You know, you go sit and have a beer with Chris Crombie. You go sit and have a beer with Jeremy Cornish. You go sit and have a coffee with Mike Ware and just shoot shit. They're all good guys.
Yeah.
And the tough guys that we had in and around Basingstoke as juniors were were always the nicest guys to the kids. They were always the ones out there like giving back in the day when you could afford to give sticks away and like blades and stuff. You know, like the Chief, Chris Brandt. I probably still got some of Chief's blades in my mum and dad's shed at home. I bet I do. Like guys like that and guys you looked up to. And then again, he's another one. I got to play with Hurls that year in Basingstoke. I also got to play with Chief when I was in that kind of junior best of British kind of era. I got crazy bastard. I remember him. He wanted to show the goalies something one night at the end of practice. He's like, "Hey kid, come and shoot some pucks at me." I was like, "Fuck, what?" Like I said, I was like 14, but I got a good shot. Like I got a heavy shot. And Chief's got no upper body on. He's taking his helmet off, and he's taking the goalie's catcher and blocker. And he's like, "Right," and he's showing the goalie, and he's like, "Shoot some pucks at me." So I'm like, throwing some like sauce. He's like, no, shoot some fucking pucks at me. So next thing I'm skating in from like the blue, hitting clappers at Chief, and he's got no body armor on, just a catcher and blocker, and he's showing the goal. He's like, yeah, you gotta be like this, and you gotta be like this. But so I was lucky that I was kind of around good pros and like good dudes, and it just so happened they were tough as shit, and I liked that, and I wanted to be that,
Mhm.
and I think I did a pretty damn good job at doing it.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you had a point to prove? Was there ever something inside of you that, like, I might not be as tall as these guys, I might have a British accent. So I'm gonna prove everybody something. Was there all like a bit of a chip on your shoulder?
Um, yeah, I've got a chip on my shoulder anyway. Not
That
not
from?
not so now, not now, but like when I was
But
younger.
what was it from?
Um, don't know, just I don't know, just it is.
Explain the chip on your shoulder
I,
then.
I,
What does it mean to you?
I don't think I would have been any like if I played rugby, I think I would have been exactly the same. If I played American football, I think I'd have been exactly the same. I don't think it's a sport. I think
Chip
it's
on your
me.
shoulder, what? Like playing angry? Like you playing like you got a
Yeah,
point?
playing with an edge.
Mm.
Play with an edge. Play close to the line. You know,
Playing
um,
pissed off?
maybe in my younger days before I can control my emotions. But the older I got, I realized what a fucking adrenaline dump and stuff I would get from that. Um, like I always had my best. Like, do you know when you know you're gonna fight in a game? My best fights were was when I was calm. There's no use me being like, yeah, let's fucking go. Rah. It's just like it didn't work. You took me wrong. You asked about like pre-game routines on like games where I knew I was gonna fight like early. I wouldn't listen to the team talk or anything. I put my headphones on. I'd go sit up the other end of the locker room on my own and just try to get into whatever mental mind state. Because when you have a fight in a play because you're pushing and shoving in front of the net, you don't have time to think about it. But when you know you're going to go first period, 0 second, point one, and you're going to take your helmet and gloves off, you know everybody's in the building, everybody's watching. That's when you don't want to get knocked out. That's when you do not want to get KO'd. So with that, then I would go into like a different mindset and try and I didn't care what the fucking breakout was. I didn't care who I know I'm going to be on PP1 when I get out the box, but I don't need to know where to stand right now. Like I'll figure that shit out in a minute. It's going to be okay. I need to be here in my head, couple of G up songs, whatever it is. And those games were always fun for your coaches will say to you kids, do something to get in the game, block a shot, make a hit, shoot a puck, win a battle. Like when you fought early, I was like, shit, I'm in the game.
Yeah.
Like I'm in it. Like you're so invested. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Unless you
like
get
that
kicked
part.
out.
Yeah, unless you get kicked out, and then you just have a massive adrenaline dump and sit in the locker room feeling bad. Like, but like it was, I don't know, it was fun, man. I'd love to do it all again.
Yeah, you're bringing back some memories. You know, those are early fights, getting kicked out and ending up watching the rest of the game and stuff, and always having
That'd
that
be
dopamine.
worse if you were like in Manchester or something. You just sat on the
Oh,
bus for 4 hours.
yeah,
Just sat on the
no.
bus for 4 hours, played one shift.
Uh,
You got a 5 hour drive home because you got, oh, come on.
Nicky, as a hockey player, I never got to watch you play except on the Isle of Wight for, I think it was a testimonial game or some Isle of Wight celebration game where I came down with Nicky Chin from London, and I was fucked. I was like,
Yeah.
I'd been drunk for like a week, so I couldn't get on the ice. And I remember everyone was like, come on the ice, come on the ice. And I was trying to pretend I was okay, but I probably had like
Okay.
pancreatitis was flaring up. Like I was a mess. I was not in a good way. But I remember you in the changing room, and some of the guys were trying to convince me to get on the ice. But I remember your energy. I was like, this guy's energetic, you know, and I'd never seen you play. And I was like, oh, he's a high tempo guy, right? So high energy, like pacing the changing room. You were moving around. You were like, and then we played in a charity game in Basingstoke, you know, and you were
Yeah.
you've got a high energy, right? And you said earlier on when you learned how to control your emotions. So as a guy who's getting paid to play hockey, you know, you've got a role to do. When did you learn that you needed to control emotions, control energy? And what was the emotions that you needed to control?
Just not getting too amped up, remaining a little bit calmer in certain situations and kind of like I always kind of prided myself on being a smart player. Like I could read the game very well. I understand the game very well. I think I understood my role very well. I knew when there was times to do it and when there was times not to do it. Um, and it was kind of going back to what you said about having a point to prove. It probably once I'd proved my point that let's say year 3 of being in the EPL, year 4, whatever. I kind of proved that I could do the tough side of it. I'd gone from, half a point a game to pretty much being a point a game player my whole career. I was getting put on for like important face-offs and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, there's still times where, you lose the head. But as a rule, I think after that first 3, 4 seasons, you kind of proved it, you'll stick it out with some of these tough boys and you'll look after your teammates and you're going to chip in offensively and you're going to do all this. You can be less kind of fiery in terms of quick to action, hothead, and a little bit more composed. You know, maybe you take a number whereas previously you wouldn't,
Mhm.
and you settle a score a little bit later. It's a long season, and it was just different mentality. And sorry, just getting pop-ups on my laptop. Um, it's hard to say, but probably 20, 21, 22. Injuries didn't help. So, like I remember my first proper injury was I broke my thumb and my hand playing for Swindon. Sitting on the sidelines, it kind of allowed you to see it from a different perspective. But I was
Mhm.
never good at being injured. I was never good at not being able to contribute. Um, so I think when you sit and watch, you're kind of picking up more than if you are maybe if you're playing in that game. I.e., like you talk about like players' habits before games and stuff like that. When you're doing all your own shit, you don't really paying attention to what the guy in the stall next to you is doing. He might be taping his stick the exact same way, putting his leg pads on exactly the same way, eating the exact same amount of fucking jelly beans, going for a shit at the same time. Like whatever it is. But when you're injured and you're sat in a room, you're like, oh, he did that yesterday. Oh, he did, yeah. And you starting to pick up on other people's energies. You start to pick up like and with it as well, you play with kind of senior guys that I play with, like Chindros, for example, like Chinny. He'd be giving you advice. You know, you need to dial this in a little bit here. If you're going to go in there, you need to do that. If and
He's one of my
I'm
favorite all
picking up
time.
invaluable information from veterans, from older guys,
Mhm.
and that kind of shapes you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Chinny's one of my favorite all time guys.
Yeah, absolute beauty.
Yeah, I'd have him on a team any day of the week. He'd be
Yeah,
one of my first
uh,
signings.
yeah. I played with Chinny and Slough. Love Chinny, just a fucking beauty. I maybe played with him in Basingstoke as well, actually. Just the biggest back in the league.
Yeah.
His lat span is just a joke.
A loving guy too. Just a
Yeah.
beautiful, great guy. You managed to play with some real legends, man. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and I know there's not one, but who's the hand? Like name the guys that really had the biggest influence on you.
Oh, good question. Good question. Hmm. Probably John Paris Jr. and my dad would be the two that had the biggest influence on my career. And then playing wise, when we were younger, it was like me and Joe Greener. We were kind of, he came across from Bracknell and me and Joe pushed each other and we played in the same line and we went up to the senior team. So that was kind of early days. And then going into Slough, I think you would lean on guys like Chinny and Bixie would look after you, Fordy would look after you. Um, where did I go after Slough? Went to Swindon. Guys like Lee Brathwaite were like good in the room, like veteran guy, big old tough rugged defenseman. And I kind of bounced around, but there was no one really sticks out. I think I
A
was
lot of
very
British
much,
names, buddy. A lot of British names there.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it was always the British names in the locker room, wasn't it? And yeah, I mean, you've been around it long enough, you know what the Brits are like in the room. They're always good. Later on in my career, guys like Terry Miles, he played a big part in a lot of my career. Shane Morsey, I played with Morsey in Swindon for two years, Bracknell for 2 years, Swindon again. I think me and Morsey played together for like 6 or 7 years. Just guys like that, like Terry Miles, played with him in Slough for a couple of years. I played with him in Bracknell for a couple of years. They were like the kind of guys that when you get asked about your favorite teammates and stuff like that, like guys like that are always on the list. In terms of like looking up to guys, I don't really know. Like my kind of guys were like Pavel Bure.
Mm.
Like he was like my first love.
Yeah.
Absolutely my first love. Yaga, Lindros.
Ryan Trottier
Like
was first. Ryan Trottier.
yeah, like they were my guys. Like they were the ones I'd look out for. Um in Basingstoke times of young, Kevin Conway,
Yeah.
absolute stud muffin. Just to rip it up. Rick Ferrer, Tim Salmon. Um And then, like, as we get a bit later on, it's talked about like Mike Ellis was legit. Like, obviously, Basingstoke were in the BNL and the Elite League over the years, and the Super League. Like, there were some fucking weapons coming through here in the Super League. Jesus Christ! Like, some of the boys that used to come through Basingstoke would be like, "Oh, we've never seen anything like that before." Like, the level was a joke. It had gone from like kind of half and half, and then all of a sudden you just got 16 mutants wheeling around every night. Like Kenny Priestley, I always liked watching Ken Priestley. Tony Hand.
Yeah.
Um, Tony Hand's probably if you're a young British player and you didn't look up to Tony Hand, you're an idiot.
Mm.
Like just like he was the Wayne Gretzky of British hockey. I know it's like the most overused thing when you talk about Tony. But it's the best analogy you can get. Like he is the Wayne Gretzky of British hockey. I'd argue of European hockey. Like the guy's stats are a sick joke.
In terms of playing, he is a legend. I love Tony. I played against him a couple of times, and it was embarrassing for me.
For everybody
Um,
that he played against, yeah.
yeah, but he was just making you look like you're standing still. And in terms of playing, Nicky, like you went from like 0 to 100 really fast. As a junior player playing, at the highest level, and then you've named some of the guys that you've looked up to. But in terms of the games, like, would you say that you hit your height? And what were your favorite games and your favorite moments of playing pro hockey?
Favorite games were for Slough playing against Milton Keynes at the playoffs in Coventry. We lost by 1 goal, and yeah, that one sucked. But it's still my favorite games. It was competitive. Everything's on the line. Fun to play in. That was then. That was the year. that the next day Chucky and Norm fought off the opening face-off, which is still, without a doubt, the best fight I've ever seen in UK ice hockey history. Like live. Those boys were, yeah, just, and they're both a couple of beauties. Like I love them. They both come and play in the charity game. You got the boy that they're holding court, they're hanging out, telling stories, and it's funny, like from back then to like see them now, just like good dads now, you know, like just old men like love that got good banter, and but they know that like that was a hell of a hockey game against Milton Keynes. And then the same, Basingstoke versus Manchester, and we lost in a shootout in the semi-final, Coventry. But fuck, what a game to be a part of! Like every shift, because both of those games are like they finish 1 goal games. Every shift is everything. You can't make a mistake. You got to get pucks out. You got to get like I'm gonna go like pure Shawsy here. Get pucks out. Get pucks in. Get pucks deep. Crash to the net. You couldn't make a mistake. You couldn't be lazy. You couldn't. There was no coasting. It wasn't a 6-1 game. It wasn't, oh, if you're turning the puck over, it doesn't matter. Everything was heightened. Everything. They were the games you want to play in. Like, or like I could go to when I was in Bracknell against playing with Pinky and Seski. Like, we were the most dominant line in the country that year. There wasn't a better line in the country, like, not even close. And
who are you with?
my physical, Yaroslav Seski and Michael Pink.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, we dominated that year. Like really good point production wise for me. I was in the best shape I'd ever been. I went to a PT the end of the year before, and I think I came into training camp. I was 7% body fat. Like I was fucking dialed in. I went from like 23% to 7% over the summer, and I came in and I was dialed in. My diet was on point. They put me with the 2 imports. They gave me the A, and yeah, like
Nicky, how old are you now?
I'm 38 now.
Okay, so you're 38 now. You're looking back at your career. What would be the moment that you would tell Brody when he's like at the age where he could understand you? If you were just sitting there on a park bench or in the car driving, you'd think, man, remember
Good
this
question.
moment. Huh?
Probably winning gold for Great Britain 18s. No, it's not probably. Winning gold for Great Britain 18s. Winning a gold medal for your country is fucking cool as shit. Like,
Yeah.
like there isn't anything cooler than that. Um, yeah, man, that was a proud day. And the fact that we'd been the year before we went away, and Alan Anderson, Bean, as everyone knows him, took a bunch of Scottish kids that were fucking shit. And we were in a tougher division, and we left better boys at home, and we got smoked, and it was embarrassing. It fucking sucked. It sucked. I don't. You're gonna lose. It's hockey, right? You're gonna lose. You learn to lose, but we got embarrassed in that tournament, and then they changed it, and Pete Russell came in, and we were down a division, and we went to Lithuania, and we were expected to win, and we did our job. We did our job. We won all 5 games, and we won the medal. And then there was no flights back from Lithuania for like 2 days, so we just got we're just a bunch of 17. It was like 60 pence a pint and 60 pence for 20 Bensons. So the boys just went and drank and smoked, and you could get a burger and fries in Lithuania back then for like 150. So all those 17-year-olds were living like millionaires for a couple of days, and like just absolutely loving life. But yeah, like just a cool experience. Obviously, Pete's first gold medal. He's now coached in what 4 Pool A World Championships or something. Like, so there's a pretty cool connection there, and play with good guys on that roster, guys I'm still friends with now, and yeah, that would be the moment. Getting to represent your country, getting to pull that shirt on, getting to win a medal. That would be where I'd go. Don't get me wrong, there's some cool shit happens when you turn pro, but yeah, it doesn't compare to that.
What a nice way to end the second period, bud. And this is now like, Nicky, you're 38, you're a PT, right? And you
Yeah.
you run the largest podcast, UK hockey podcast. 4,000 and counting. At 38, you probably could still be playing. There are a lot of 30-year-olds still playing, but this third period is about life after playing competitively. So I'm having a hard time with you because I don't know, like when did you know, or if you even know, that you've played your last competitive game of hockey?
So in 2013, playing for Peterborough then against Milton Keynes when Milton Keynes were playing out of Coventry while their rink was getting refurbished. I skated around the back of the net and I went to wrap a puck around, and the defenseman went to poke check the puck and he missed the puck and he poke checked my front leg and I did the splits. And I remember being down and I remember being in a lot of pain. And Peterborough were brilliant. Like they sent me to physios. I was getting treatment. I was getting treatment on my back and on my hip, and it was still bad. And then I got sacked from Peterborough, and I left Guildford. And I told Digger, I was like, "Look, I'm more than willing to come, but this is what's going on with my hip. This is what's going on with my back. They think there's something wrong with my pelvis." And Guildford were like, "Look, we're sponsored by a private hospital, Mount Alvernia Hospital. We've got the best team. Come, we'll get you in." And they did, and they went on. And I never knew it'd be my last game then. Obviously, I got banned and stuff like that. But I knew that, and I remember speaking to Digger in the April. He called me as I was walking around Morrison's getting my food shop. And I was like, I'm going to take a year out. This is before the ban. I'm going to take a year out. I was like, I'm in bits. My hip hurts. I'm like 2 years into my PT business then. And I'm really trying to like put some time in and grow it and expand it. And then the ban comes along 3 months later. Like I popped for steroids. I took what I believed to be Anavar, ended up being Winstrol. They came, I refused to test. They came back and tested me again. And by that point, I'd stopped taking it. I only took it for a few days. It made me feel like shit. I like. I'm not saying that I've never touched it because I've touched it since. Like, I'm not trying to bullshit or anything. But at that point, I stopped it. Failed the test. Got an 8-year ban because they classed it as two violations. So that would have took me through till I was like 36. No, scratch that, 34. And I thought at that point, I wasn't really ever interested in coming back to play. And then little times throughout, I thought about it, but my hip has literally never been the same. So I'm actually on the waiting list right now for a hip replacement, which should happen October this year. I took Brody skating at Danny Meyer's rink, the Ozone, in, I don't know, maybe November. You know how small the Ozone is. I was doing like 2 laps and having to get off and fucking rest for 10 minutes. 2 lap because I basically I have no labrum, I have no cartilage in my hip. I have arthritis in my hip, arthritis in my wrist, arthritis in my shoulder. I've got like bony spurs going on my hip. So my body's pretty beaten up from the way that I played. Um, you're gonna play physical. I finished every hit that I was ever lined up for. I never pulled out of a hit in my life. So it's one of them. Like I'm paying the piper now. However, the surgeon has said to me, if I end up if he can do the hip resurfacing as opposed to the hip replacement, then he's like, you could go back and play if you want. So, watch this space. I would never rule it out. I'm intrigued to see if I can still do it. The other thing that concerned me about like coming back to play, obviously, you touched on the podcast. Anyone that's listened to my podcast over the last 6 years or followed us on social media will know I'm outspoken about a lot of shit. Stuff that needs to be said, stuff that I can use my platform for. A lot of the time that involves, governing bodies, right? I didn't want to be in a situation where I came back, say 3 years ago, was grinding out playing through a dodgy hip, and then them just suspending me every week for something that I'd said on the podcast. Or do you know what I mean? Like where I'm playing here and they're stopping me doing the pod because at that point, I've got visions on where this podcast is going to be, and you know, I to me, I still think I'm on like the bottom rung, like of the ladder. Like this podcast going places. People have been following for a long time. They know it's building. They know I've been grinding, and I didn't want that to be jeopardized in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
I still don't. I still want to be able to come on and speak openly and honestly, because I think that's why the podcast's been a success. But we've started to see better sides of it. I've had Clifton Roxley on. I've had Henry Starlins on. I've got Martin Peters coming on. I've got the SIH guys coming on. So maybe there's something where we're working together here, and you know, we're all towing on the same rope. Then if that gets to that stage, then I can be confident in that me coming back on the ice isn't going to jeopardize anything I'm doing with the pod. Then, I would like to play a game with my brother again. If I was to come back and play one game, like I don't know. Do you know, it sounds romantic, and then the thought of like sitting on a fucking bus to Solway or something, like, oh, I'm
Like
right.
you had a fun career, and you enjoyed playing the game. You're
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
love
fun.
dropping gloves. You were energetic. You were like from day one that you were born. I think you would have looked in the mirror and said, "I'm a hockey player."
Yeah,
Right? Do you still look in the mirror and say, "I'm a hockey player"?
yeah,
Right? And
just
what's
just
that
an
feel
old
like?
one.
What's it feel like if you say I'm a hockey player and I'm not playing hockey?
Oh mate, I haven't played a game in like 12 years. I'm fucking fine with it. Like I'm so fine with it. I Do you know what
Can
I
you
would like to
can
do?
can your character, your inside of you be a hockey player, but still not play, like get on the ice and grind it out and play every game and practice three times a week?
Yeah,
Is
of
it
course you
because
can.
you've got the
It's your
podcast?
mentality.
Is it because you've
Yeah,
got,
because 100%, 100%.
what would it be like if you didn't have the podcast?
I don't know. It's like I said, it's been 6 years, so I can't really think what that was like. Do you know, I think when I wasn't doing the podcast, and I wasn't when I first got banned, I don't think I went in the rink for 2 years. I wasn't asked. And then I went back and watched like one of my brother's games when I was like maybe 28, 29. And then I started maybe going back down to Basingstoke bi-regularly, like twice a month. And watching a bit there just because, it was close. And then I'm a hockey nerd, man. Like, always have been. Even when I was banned, I like first thing morning shit back then, dropyourgloves.com, see who's been fighting the night before. Travesty that website has gone, by the way, still not over that. And then yeah, I was always checking scores, and the whole sort of situation came around. Spitting Chicklets came out, and I was messaging Bandy, and I said to Bandy, you need to listen to this podcast. My brother put it on to me. My brother was like in from episode 2, I think, when it was RA and Wit sitting on RA's couch. And by this point, I think they were on like episode 100. So me and Bandy are like way behind anything, never even heard of it. And I'd said to him, like, mate, you need to listen to this podcast. You're gonna love it. It's like it's just hockey boys shooting the shit. And then Bandy got waffled. I knew he was waffled because he tagged me in a Facebook post at like 3:48 a.m. and it was me, Alan Armour, Jamie McElroy. He's like, "So boys, we're gonna make a podcast or what?" And then I think we started the podcast like 2 days later. And yeah, that was February 2019. Little did we know, like I'm not sure we really knew what a podcast was. Bandy was trying to edit on his phone and just like chopping massive chunks out because he didn't know what he was doing. Like, but like we had no idea, but we had a vision, and the vision was, we want to keep the stories from the room alive.
Hmm,
And the,
nice.
the thing that I struggled with initially, what's happening in the room stays in the room. So it was like, what stories can we tell? And then like our first ever guest was Colin Shields. I think our first guest we had Colin Shields, you and Cluesy, Chinny, Adam Greener when he just come out of jail, and Greener just come on and told stories. Like everyone knows Ad, what a beauty. And like I was like, this is what we were talking about, just like funny stories, holding court. It was like sitting on the back of the bus. Um, yeah, it was literally like locker room talk. But we also wanted to do shit for charity, right? And we've managed to do a lot of that in the last 6 years. We've managed to raise a lot of money for some very good causes. And then as it kind of the thing grew, obviously Mac and Bandy have since moved on. Mark's been in. We've had some great producers behind the scenes. We now got producer Graham. He's a good guy, and I've got relationships up and down the country with so many people on the back of the podcast. Speaking to like elite league GMs and speaking to speaking to coaches, speaking to players up and down the country. Obviously, do like the 4,000 counting tournaments, charities stuff, and bits and pieces. So like when I'm planning these things, I'm talking to like 80 guys at once. So you're still well within the community. Obviously, you reach fan bases and fans that are very new to the game that would have never seen me play, but have found me through the podcast, and you'll reconnect with old fans like from times that when you played, they're still kicking around, and yeah, it's been a crazy journey, and I
Uh,
don't
I,
I don't see it stopping.
I bumped into you in London,
Yeah, just in the
and
street, right?
I gave you a hug, and I said, keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing, and you just used the word community, right? Is you're keeping a community together, you're pulling people into a community, the hockey community of the UK. And I in my heart, I know it's a really good thing that you're doing by keeping people connected and giving them information, giving them stories, contributing to charity. So you're doing a lot of good work, Nicky. And I'm wondering, when I quit playing, I don't remember my last game was my last game, right? I went from the Guildford Flames, last game, Stan Marple was the coach. I don't remember my last game, but I remember like I had the job on TV. I was doing what you're doing. I was talking to owners, to coaches, to players. I had full access as a Sky Sports guy to talk to people. And I was right in the middle of everything. I was getting paid more money than some of the players. It was just the dream job. But like I also remember feeling like a fraud. Like I'm just some
Okay,
kid
interesting.
from Saskatchewan, right? Like how am I ended up on TV, talking to all these people. And I had a lot of self-doubt, you know, that manifested itself in me coping with it by drinking too much and partying too much and looking for some validation in places that I shouldn't have been, getting validation. And I'm just wondering from from your getting hurt, the suspension, to you doing what you're doing now, have you ever had self-doubt come in? Have you ever had some kind of like feelings like, wow, this is like something like that's just too big or getting too big, or like, is your confidence in building community, the words that I gave you, I hope they still underpin what you're doing, is that you're doing really good
Yeah.
work, but does Nicky Watt have any insecurities?
Not about this shit, man. It's the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. Going on and talking about hockey. God, I've been practicing for this since I was 6. Ask my school teachers; they're fucking bored of listening to it. Like, it's like you need to draw a picture. Draw a picture of a hockey guy. You need to tell a story. Told a story about a hockey guy. Um, and like I
So
said,
you
I think
say
I
you're just.
understand the game. I think I understand the game very well.
Mhm,
So when I give an opinion on it, I'll
mhm,
die on the opinion. Like I can be pretty positive that something if I'm watching a game and I see something
mhm,
and I give that opinion, pretty sure it's right.
mhm,
Like I can see it happening in front of me. Like some people talk about the way Tony Hand used to he played a game on slow mo. Like he would just rewind. He could see stuff. I feel the same when I watch when I've coached, when I played. I've always felt like I can see and I can assess and I can break down the game very well. And I'm also pretty strong-minded and I'm also quite opinionated. So, and I'm also a bit of a moral guy. And when you see some of the suspensions getting handed out over the years, and you can see stuff going wrong in the sport, That's why I didn't want to re-register. I wanted to be able to come on and rip the fucking DOPS, a brand new one with Shane Moore, and make changes in the sport.
What was it like for you though? Like if you're saying moral, what was it like for you to be given such a hefty suspension for something, it's like doping? Like what did that do to
It,
you?
it felt like just a massive piss take, mate. Honestly, the whole thing from start to finish. Um, Dealing with UK anti-doping, like they're an absolute joke of an organization, like a joke of an organization. Seeing what they were like up close, um, was very interesting. Uh, just the whole way they went around about everything they did. Um,
What
just
go to
yeah,
before you get tested, right? What were you
yeah.
doing? What were you putting in your body, and why were you putting it in your body?
So I was going to Ibiza on holiday. And yeah, just took some Anavar. It's supposed to give you a good, decent little bit of a fucking pump, shred you down a little bit. Nothing to do with hockey. Like I never took any performance enhancing drugs when I played hockey. I mean, I took drugs when I played hockey, but I didn't take any performance enhancing drugs when I played hockey. I like, and if I was to have taken drugs to play hockey, Anavar would not have been the drug to take to play hockey. Like, obviously, I know it's my industry now, right? The fitness industry now. So I know way more about the drugs and the aesthetics and everything than I ever did at 26, which is when it happened, 27, almost 27. Um, yeah, like it was it was just a joke. The whole thing was a joke.
Nicky, like
And
that's your prime years, man. Your prime years.
but like I said, I think the thing it made it a little bit more comfortable is having that conversation with Digger like 3 months before when I'd already committed to taking a year out.
Mm.
And when I initially popped for the things, I thought I was going to get 2 years. So I was like, well, I've already committed to taking a year out anyway. So this is just one more year. I have 2 years to work on my business. I'll be 28. I'll be good. And then they classed the refusal because this was my argument back then. And they come to my door 6 a.m. in whatever it was in June. And I've been smoking weed. I hadn't even started taking the Anavar at this point. I've been smoking weed and maybe getting into a couple of extra curricular activities recreationally. And they come to the door, and I was like, "Why should I take a test?" I said, "I'm not registered. Like my season's finished. Like I was playing for Guildford. Yeah, we got eliminated in the semi-finals at Coventry. Let's say April 6th. I haven't had a paycheck for 10 weeks.
Mm.
I'm I'm no longer playing. I said, I've already told my coach I'm not coming back. So why am I going to do a drug test for you? And they were like, we can't give you any answers. We're here. I was like, well, can I ring England ice hockey? Can I ring the IHA? I was like, yeah, by all means. So obviously it's 6 a.m. Who the fuck's answering their phone at 6 a.m.? You're ringing around, ringing around. I'm not sure if I need to do this test or not. I was like, right now, I'm not a hockey player. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. And it turns out when you sign your registration forms, they run right through until August. So although technically I'm not employed and I'm not getting paid
Mm.
by anybody, I'm still registered. So as a registered player, you're eligible to be
Why
tested.
were they at your door at 6 a.m.? Like, why at your door? Why then?
Oh, they came after a bunch of us. Um,
Is it because of
I
what?
I I,
Because of like,
I won't tell you on here, but I'll tell you when we get off. Um, yeah, I'll tell you when you get off. But they came after a bunch of us. If you look at that
because of
2013,
snitches, because of
2014,
people talking, because of like,
yeah, yeah, I'll
you
tell
need
you
to
when
say
you.
names. You don't need to say names, but are people
I can't tell the
snitching?
story without it being really obvious.
Okay, all right.
I could. There's no way I could tell the story. Like the story is so obvious, but if you, I'll give you guys a little hint. If you look around about the sort of timeline, what happened big around that sort of timeline, and and you'll see a connection. But also, UK statistics are out there. Go and look at how many tests they did in the 7 years prior, and then go look how many tests they did in 2013, 2014. bearing in mind all those tests came around about March to April. I think they tested like 57 guys in the EPL, maybe more. The 7 years previous, across UK hockey as a whole, there was like 7 tests. So it was very targeted and based on some information that they may have received. But again, this information was for probably recreational stuff. And
So
they come after a bunch of us. They came after me, they came after my brother, they came after Pisey. Another funny story, but I won't tell it on here. Yeah, like they came after a lot of the boys, man, and they were up and down the country trying to get a few of us. They really were. They were out and they were on it. They were turning up.
This is probably for party stuff, not in performance enhancement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it's an English pub league. Like the boys like to have the boys like to have fun. And I think that was part of it. But then obviously they come back. And now I know that I'm supposed to take this test, right? So they come back and they knock on the door, like it might be 2 weeks later. But then I'm like a month away from a holiday or whatever, so I've started taking this stuff. And then I'd come off of it because it was making me like all jittery and feel like shit. So I'd been off of it for probably 3 or 4 days. They come in and they ask me to do a test again. So now I know, since spoken to people, I now know it because I'm registered. So I said, "Fuck it, I'll do your test." And I popped for Exandrolone, which is a Winstrol, not even what I thought I was taking. So there's a lesson, kids. Don't get your drugs from random dudes in the gym that you don't know. Like,
don't do drugs, kids. Just don't do drugs.
Oh, don't do drugs, yeah. But yeah, like, so I end up failing my test. And the other thing is, I'm very like, put my hands up. Yeah, man. Like, I took this. This is what happened. I've been caught. Suck it up. Like, it is what it is. You gotta deal with it. And the thing that pissed me off is when the guy came back to do the second test, he's talking about the first test and the refusal. It felt like it was all one thing. It felt like because I didn't do it last time, hey man, if you just do it this time, it was all kind of like they then treated that as 2 separate offences, which meant the second ban was 6 years, which I think was absolutely dirty, especially because round about that sort of time, you had boxers fucking popping off. You had all these athletes. Yeah, no footballers. Coincidence. Also the time that Rio Ferdinand failed his drug tests and allegedly a lot of money landed in UK anti-doping's hands to start performing a lot of tests in the English pub league. Because let me tell you, they've never been able to afford to do 57 tests before. And all of a sudden, they're like a dog with a bone, right? And obviously I've dealt with them on more than one occasion. And they get paid. They couldn't give a shit if sport's clean. Let's get that right open. They don't care if sport's clean. They have no care whatsoever about clean sport. What they care about is hitting quotas. If we get this guy, then we still have a job to go to tomorrow morning. And if we get that guy, why are you never testing any? How are you never catching any of the best athletes? They're all doping. And this is what I've learned more from like the older I get in the industry that I'm in. Fuck, they're all doping. They're just good at it. Like, watch Icarus. If you've never seen never seen the movie Icarus, I really encourage you to go and watch it. It is one of the best documentaries you will watch about doping. It is eye-opening, and the levels of the cover-ups. This has been going on since the Olympics started. Eating bull testicles and taking whatever.
There was, when East Germany was East Germany, I know the Olympic, I think it was women's athletics, and their drug test back then was to pull down your shorts and see whether or not you had.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Nicky, life after hockey for you. You know, people are going to see you doing 4,000. They know you're a PT. They're going to see your social media. And I just want to do this thing of like, when I saw you in London, like I hugged you because community is really big for me. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know what I'm doing. And I think community and people sticking together is really big. And this is why I'm an advocate for you and what you do. Would you say when you were playing hockey, would you say that that was your purpose, playing hockey?
Yeah, probably. I'd say
Yeah.
so.
Would you say now that you're living a life of purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get to help people on a daily basis doing my job. And then I've kind of been able to tie that in a little bit with a podcast, help people in different ways. So that gives me purpose. And obviously I'm a dad now, so this keeps me connected to the game. And no doubt Brody's going to follow in the footsteps of me, my brother, my dad. Like it's, and I'm more than happy if he doesn't want to, by the way, but karma's a bitch. So I'm sure I'm going to be spending every weeknight and weekend in an ice rink for the next 20 years as well as
brother,
the previous 20. But
it's
you
so
know,
much.
my mum and dad paid their dues, right? So I guess I've got to suck it up and
Do it.
do the
It's the
same.
most beautiful thing. It is the most beautiful. As someone, you know, my 8-year-old is big into it, and you know what hockey's like in the Czech Republic, how serious they take it
Oh
here,
yeah,
and
massive.
he's banging it, and it's a lot of work, but it is so fulfilling, and it's so beautiful to be at another stage of hockey, and I think that's what's so great about this sport is that there are stages from when we fall in love with the game to playing it at the highest elite levels, whether it's elite level or not, or there's just whatever you're playing at the highest level that you can play at, to life after playing competitively, where perhaps you're a father or a coach or you're running a podcast, is to stay. This is the message for this. This is for UK hockey players, right? This isn't for everybody else, Nicky. This is what we're trying to
Yeah.
do with Stick Together is to give people that little bit of incentive to stay involved in the game if they can, because it's community and it's purpose and it's what you're doing. So well done to you.
Thanks, man. And again, if there's no conflict of interest when it comes to the podcast, once I've had this hip replacement resurfacing, whatever they do in October, I'm gonna get back on the ice and start coaching the fucking kids again because that was my biggest passion, and it's probably something that I should have touched on earlier when you said like what would be your takeaway. I love coaching way more than I love playing,
Ooh.
way more. Like not even not even remotely close. Like the buzz I would get from coaching the Southwest like 15s or 17s, or I had Nicky Watt hockey camps for years, man. They were packed. Like I ran the Planet Ice and Steve Murray and all the other guys out of town in Basingstoke. All their camps failed on their ass. Mine was absolutely thriving every year. I was doing really good like off ice stuff with the kids. I had like shooting clinics. I had like individual skating lesson clinics. Like I was tied to the game in so many different ways, and I'll be back. I'll be back in some sort of way. I still I still would love whether it's now or later in life. I still love the Basingstoke Bison head coach's job. It's been an ambition of mine since I've been a kid. I've not been shy about it. I know I could do the job fucking well as well. Let me tell you. Um, so you know, like I'll be back in the rink at some point. I'm not in a rush. I'm really happy with where I'm at. I don't feel a rush to be in there. No doubt, if Brody starts playing, when he starts playing, no doubt I'll be out there coaching and doing that. But I always like to coach the kids. I remember like my whole career, like pretty much my whole adult career, I was coaching. I started coaching when I was 14. And the whole time I played in the EPL, I was coaching Basingstoke 16s or 18s or 19s. I was doing Southwest 15s or 17s. I was in a rink 7 days a week. So when it came to an end, it was kind of it was nice not to be in ice rink for 2 years. Like it was 7 days a week, non-stop, you know, because I would like in the EPL days, you skated Tuesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday, played Saturday, Sunday. But when like I said, I was always coaching. So Basingstoke would be coaching Monday and practice Tuesday, coaching Wednesday, practice Thursday, either optional skate or a Southwest training Friday, game Saturday, Sunday. And that was my life, September to April, May, since I was like 16, 17, 18. It was nice to have a little breather.
It's we're gonna have a quick little breather here. We're gonna end that third period, and as all we always end up in overtime here in Nicky, and
Yeah.
you've spoken a lot about a lot of things, and there was a time. This is our overtime here. Let's drop the puck for overtime.
Yeah.
Um, there is a. I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, yeah,
So,
and I listened to him talk about Missy, in the comedy club, this woman who just influenced, and he always gets a little choked up when he talks about Mitzi Shore. And when you were talking about John Paris Jr. at the beginning, there's a bit of you that was like, you know, and
oh,
I,
legend.
what was it like? Tell me about like not just what you learned on the ice, right? Tell me about your connection to that man.
Yeah, just like he instilled a lot of respect. He demanded discipline. He he wanted everything you did to be 100%. And, he would hold you to high expectations. He would make you be a better version of yourself. And, he made you just learn and grow both on and off the ice. Everything had a purpose. Everything was for a reason. There was no cutting corners. He made you put the work in the gym and in the classroom and at practice. And like he expected a lot out of his athletes, and he got a lot out of his athletes because of that.
How did he do that?
The man's a fucking genius.
Mm.
Straight, like just clever shit. Because of his connections and because of where he played and coached and all the other stuff. Like, I remember one day in the office, and he calls me into his office, and he's on the phone, and I'm like, I'm blatantly just listening to his conversation, right? And I'm like, yeah, try to figure out who he's talking to. He gets off the phone. I'm like, who's that? He's like, oh, that's Mario. So, oh, what, Mario Lemieux? And he went, yeah. I went, what? Like, shit. Like, just like clever. He knew that he was on the phone to him. He knew to invite me into his office there. He just little things that he used to do that
What
now
was
looking
his
back
job?
as a
What was his job?
to develop
Not just hockey players, but people.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his job was to instill in you character, purpose, drive. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'd say he succeeded. Like just I'm sure if you got Barry McKenzie on here, he would tell you exactly the same. Like Coach John he was a wizard, man.
Would he be proud of you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would
yeah. I
what would make
we
him proud
semi
of you
stay
right
in
now?
touch.
What would make him proud of you now?
Yeah, probably the community factor, I would say. Yeah,
Mm.
the fact that, keeping people together, building, growing. Like I think our Facebook community is about to hit 10,000 in the next couple of days here, which is crazy. And that's just that's just the floor. That's not the ceiling. This is
Mhm.
going to keep growing. And, 10,000 is going to be the catapult to the next big number. Um, like our Facebook page last month had 2.2 million views.
Yeah.
Like we talk about putting the community in and you know somewhere for people to go. Well, yeah, that's what we're becoming. And as it continues to grow,
Yeah.
maybe there's a bit more financially there for me to be able to put a bit more time into it. And if that is the case, then be prepared for it to really, really grow.
At 38 years old, you're pretty young, but can you look in the mirror now and go, you're proud of what you've done after the
Yeah.
suspension, the hockey career, being a father, keeping a community, building a community?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it could have been easy just to fucking pack my tent, never going to an ice rink ever again.
Mm. Yeah.
But like it could have been really easy. You know, there
What's
was
what,
what are people going to think? And like, do you know what? No one's other than a few pricks online, like they got their keyboard warrior tough guy thing.
mm,
No one's ever judged me for my suspension, really.
no.
Right. And I think because I was open and honest, I came on Banners on the Wall. That was the first time I'd ever even knew what a podcast was. I messaged him when it was all going on and said, look, once this drops, I wanna fucking put something out there. Like, I'm not gonna sit and hide and just fade away into the darkness. That's not my style. I ain't no shrinking violet. And if I mess up, I'll hold my hands up. And I did mess up and I held my hands up. And that allowed me to grow. And then this podcast has allowed me to continue to grow.
Yeah. Keep doing it, brother. I'm really proud to know you and to watch what you've been doing over the last 6 years, and for you to keep doing what you're doing. And like I always tell everybody, community is everything to me. So keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate time. Appreciate coming on here. It's fun.
Yeah. We'll put it out, just so you know, we put this out just for the Stick Together tribe. So
Yeah,
like 750 members in that group. And, you know,
awesome.
again, the idea of guys for this is to stay connected. You know, we don't want to drift away. Like I drifted away from the community for a long time, and I went into some really dark places. And through you telling your story of a man who could have gone, you know, fuck you guys, I'm out of here, you know, and I've not seen you for 8 years. For you to have done what you've done is going to inspire people to make sure that
Hope
they
so.
stay connected. So I'm really proud of you, buddy, and thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And thanks, everybody. UK Ice Hockey Stick Together tribe. Keep each other stuck together. You know, bring in your guys, bring in your teammates. You know, because we are a community and we need to stick together. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.